Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, you enter the supermarket. You walk over to the place where the milk is, 30 shekels a liter. Eggs, 40 shekels for a dozen eggs. Flour, 20 shekels for 1 kilogram. The prices jumped 3 times. The prices today may be only a hint to the future if we don't prepare ourselves. Israel has another challenge. Israel is a country that is totally dependent on import, not only food, infrastructure, resources for the security industries, plastic, food, etc. Our lines of supplies, chain of supplies, is the lifeline of Israel. If something is disrupted, this could significantly impact Israeli society and the Israeli economy. But if there's something that I want you to take from my short speech, it's that despite the world situation and insecurity worldwide, everything that we see now, these risks can be mitigated and we can change these risks into opportunities. But talking you today on this stage of national security about food, because food security is national security and the fundamental resource for existence. Without it, we don't live. What we mostly import to Israel, also they are impacted deeply by the security risks.
And beyond that, and just a peek, say, risks in chain supply of food to Israel doesn't only stay at our doorstep. We also need to think what it does to our neighboring countries. So I want to start by telling you about the research we conducted during the past year regarding supply chains of food. We examined 4 different kinds of risks: geopolitical, the cruise routes, environmental and climatic risks. About geopolitical risks, we asked the INSS researchers and Ministry of Foreign Affairs 2 questions. One, what is the risk for import of food products from the origin states where Israel imports from? The second question we asked, what are the risks at that state from its own threats, not unrelated to Israel? And this risk map is the result where we could see which states are more and which states are less risky. Experts hardly give us very high risks. They can't even see this. The next risk we chose are maritime routes risk. Here we checked what are the origin states going through their ways to the ports, all of the route between the port there to the port in Israel and all the way here. And there we checked mostly four points that are relevant to import to Israel: Dardanelles, the Bosphorus, Gibraltar, Bab el-Manda, and Suez Canal. We must explain here that what happened at Suez Canal, what are the risks that happened there. The next kind of risks we checked are environmental. Those risks already exist, and those are diseases, pests, about for the crops over there, erosion of earth, what is happening in those states where we import from. And the last kind of risk, and maybe the most interesting one, is the climatic risk. We chose to use a platform that is advanced and based on AI, that was founded and prepared for financial sector in order to evaluate risks all over the globe, and we asked them what will be the repercussion for crops in the origin states to see the decrease of crops in the origin risks, and they gave us an evaluation, and also fish, of course. And the most important questions we asked was what will happen in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, and by 2050. And for us to be able to prepare ourselves in advance, as I said. So these are the 4 types of risks that we dealt with. We chose to deal with 2 kinds of crops as a pilot. This is the first stage of this work. We chose in this pilot to deal with wheat and fish. Why? Because a high percentage of these foods are imported and are not produced in Israel. So when we ask ourselves about the risks in supply chain, from grains we will only look at corn. Why corn? Because corn feeds our chicken that create our eggs and chicken meat. The corn feeds the cows that produce milk and dairy products, and corn is also a raw material to create foods. The corn is also, as it is, a centralized product in a very centralized market, and soon enough you will see the problem and the extra challenge that arises here. We import about 40% of our corn. About 1.5 tons per year of corn is imported to Israel, which is 40% of what we use. Most of it comes from Ukraine. 45% of the corn that we import comes from Ukraine, which is not free of risks. But also looking at other countries we import from, such as the US, Russia, Brazil, and Ukraine, as I mentioned, we import from there 85% of all of the corn that we import. Now, looking at climatic risks for corn, looking at these 85%, we're talking about a decrease of about 30% during the upcoming decade from these countries. So we could say, okay, what if we don't buy from them? We'll buy from other countries. Other countries also have their own risks. And looking at other kinds of risks, additionally, also the geopolitical risks. So those countries that I mentioned, that I surveyed, you can already think of geopolitical risks. Ukraine alone, the EU testified that during 2022-2023, there was a decrease of 30% of import from crops from them due to the war with Russia. Russia, during the war with Ukraine, started a process of nationalization for the Kremlin, of nationalization of territories. And it will not end when the war ends. And we don't know how this war will end. With Brazil, for Israel, we don't know. Well, our relationships with them has been deteriorating since the Gaza war started. So looking at geopolitical and other kind of risks are adding up together with the climatic. When it comes to maritime routes, saying now, okay, let's say something might happen at the Dardanelles, at the Bosphorus, and you tell me you're just imagining, it cannot be. But when it's February 2024, we asked all of our experts about Turkey. Do you think that there's a risk to commerce with Turkey? And they said absolutely not, because it goes against Erdogan's financial interests. Can you guess what happened 2 months after that? Commerce stopped with them. Some people might say it's positive, some people say it's negative, but it stopped. And we had to find other sources, better, worse. But it definitely changed the process, all of the commercial processes. So what I said up to this point regards those risks. And I want to take another thing into account. These risks that I listed have to do with Israel. But we must also remember that these risks that we talk about that have to do with Israel don't remain here. We must also see what it does to other countries around us. If we don't have enough and we are a rich state, okay, we'll pay more for food, but we'll have food. Countries around us, it's a completely different story. They're not as strong as we are, and not necessarily they'll be able to get the same amount of food. Think about what will happen, what we've already seen happening in the past when prices increased in those states. Think about millions and millions of Egyptians moving from a place where there's no food towards a place where there is food. These risks preoccupy us, which is why we've developed a tool, an instrument to enable us to predict, to recognize in advance. So I'm not trying to lead. There are also, to scare you, there are also opportunities in those risks, and I want to present them to you. This is the tool, and I know it's hard to see and understand everything, but believe me, the work is being done. So this tool that we've developed to help us see things, what does it help us with? Recognizing main risks with all the origin states, understanding where these risks integrate and how can they strengthen each other, and of course search for opportunities for national tools that will enable us to deal with those risks and challenges. So taking us back to the corn in Brazil. Brazil in 2023 was a state that was number one export for corn in the world. By 2024, they lost the first place. Why? Because of droughts, floods, fires, a great decrease of yield of crop. So here Israel gets its opportunity. Now we enter with our solutions. We can help them deal with those risks that they're having. We've developed seeds that can grow during drought. We've developed irrigation that is accurate and precise and can deal with very little water. We are managing crops using AI and more and other solutions as well. We can give them these solutions, and in return to that, we can receive contracts long term for the long term that ensure that we will get the corn to Israel. And so we've been able to strengthen our supply chains and also enabled strengthening diplomatic relations with a state that is important to us when it comes to our relations to the relations between these two countries. So that means that we can take those risks and turn them into opportunities. And just to end my talk, I will tell you that in this uncertainty and amongst all those risks, we can create ourselves a path, a way to deal with those risks in a better way. We can analyze, we can prepare in advance. We've created this tool that is that works not only for foods but with small amounts. It can work with every kind of products and commerce, also when it comes to military industry. And this can strengthen us military wise, nationally wise, economically wise, so we can ensure that when we go into the supermarket in so and so years, we will have milk on the shelves and it will not cost 30 shekels per liter. Thank you very much.